Over the past 100 years, American aircraft carriers have been slowly getting longer, with the majority of them ranging anywhere between 800 and 1100 feet in length. That said, USS Enterprise, which was the longest aircraft carrier in the world, was still about 25% shorter than the largest ship ever built, the supertanker Seawise Giant. There are even cruise ships longer than USS Enterprise. Moreover, the newest American aircraft carrier, USS Gerald R. Ford, is actually 17 feet shorter than USS Enterprise. So why are aircraft carriers not built to be longer? After all, a larger carrier would be able to handle more aircraft, and isn't that a good thing? Here are 4 primary reasons why aircraft carriers are not built to be any longer. Number 4. Cost. It goes without saying that larger aircraft carriers would be more costly to build and maintain. The U.S. Navy's budget for fiscal 2020 was over $160 billion, which is a lot of money, but it's not unlimited. Given a fixed budget, building larger carriers means having a smaller fleet, which goes against the U.S. Navy's current plan to increase its fleet size to 355 ships. Number 3. Maneuverability. Aircraft carriers are military vessels after all, so they need to be agile and have the ability to change direction as quickly as possible. A bigger vessel will have a bigger radius of turn, which may be fine for an oil tanker or cruise ship, but it would not be optimal for an aircraft carrier, especially if they ever come under attack. If you have experience with handling a big vessel, it should be easy to relate to this. And no, it's not what you think. Number 2. Docking. Commercial vessels like cruise ships go through predetermined routes, and as part of their itinerary, visit specific ports around the world. Those ports are specifically chosen as they can accommodate these larger vessels. But aircraft carriers need to be flexible about places where they can be docked and repaired. The large dry docks that are needed to repair these vessels are limited around the world, and the larger the vessel, the less options would be available. Just imagine an aircraft carrier under wartime conditions that is in dire need of repair, but has to travel for thousands of miles before it can find an accommodating dock. Number 1. Speed. Cargo ships can travel at 16 to 25 knots, and cruise ships usually travel at about 20 knots. But aircraft carriers will not really be functional at such speeds if you think of their primary function, which is facilitating the launching and landing of aircraft. This one needs a little unpacking. In order to safely take off, aircraft need a certain amount of speed, which will generate enough lift force to enable the aircraft to fly. On an aircraft carrier, there are 2 main components contributing to the lift force. One is the aircraft and catapult speed, and the other is the apparent wind on the flight deck. The catapult can accelerate the aircraft from 0 to 150 knots in about 2 seconds, during which the pilot experiences over 3 times the force of gravity. In addition to this, the aircraft's jet engines also contribute to the acceleration needed for takeoff. But this is not enough. An additional 30 to 40 knots of speed is still required, and this is exactly where the carrier's speed becomes of utmost importance. When aircraft are launching, the carrier is always moving into the wind, so the apparent wind speed, which is the wind speed experienced by someone standing on the flight deck, is equal to the true wind speed at the ocean plus the speed of the carrier itself. And this is precisely why most aircraft carriers must be able to produce a maximum speed of over 30 knots. With all this said, if we take a step back, it's clear that cargo ships, oil tankers, and cruise ships are in the business of making money. Everything about them is the way it is to maximize profit. So the cost-benefit analysis of freight carriers and luxurious cruise ships follows a bigger is better profit curve. On the other hand, aircraft carriers and warships in general are involved in war or peace missions. And even though one could argue that aircraft carriers make profit by helping stabilize a region, which would then allow for economic growth and so on. The aircraft carriers themselves never make money by transporting freight or passengers. They are purely an expense. For an aircraft carrier, the notion of bigger is better is replaced by the law of diminishing returns. Beyond a certain size, the cost effectiveness of the carriers quickly diminish. So the aircraft carriers that the US Navy needs will cost as much as they need to, but not more. And so they're built big enough to do the job and not 1 inch bigger. In summary, aircraft carriers need a minimum amount of speed and maneuverability, the ability to be accommodated in a wide variety of ports and pass through waterways like the Suez Canal. Any increase in their size may negatively impact these characteristics, which would not be a reasonable trade-off just to increase aircraft handling capacity. Kind of like this video, it's just as long as it needs to be.